Hey everybody, it's Galmadex and welcome back to another premiere draft of the core sets format. You know the drill by now, we're in draft 5 or 6. There's going to be one pack of the most 3 recent core sets, starting with M19 and working our way towards the most recent M21. Now we have a pretty fun rare here. I don't know if it's actually that great. It's going to be good in certain matchups and going to be terrible in others. The Chaos Wand, 3 mana for an artifact. You spend 4 mana and tap it to have your opponent exile cards from the top of the library until they exile an instant or sorcery card, and then you cast it for free. So it's pretty good against decks with a lot of removal. It's mainly best in a controlling deck because that's what it's grabbing out of people's decks the most of the time, are just removal spells. So definitely a really fun card, a very random card, so it's not for everybody. If you want to just take a solid card here, you'd probably take something like Lightning Strike, just cheap, efficient removal. Outside of that, there's Electrify, which is a little more expensive, but it does do 1 more damage. And that's pretty much it there, just some good removal spells there, but I think I'm going to start off with a Chaos Wand. If we do want to make Chaos Wand work as well as possible, we'd be trying to play something a little more control-y, or at least mid-range, definitely not anything incredibly aggressive, because you do have to spend 4 mana to spin the wheel with this thing, and you're obviously not putting anything on the board while you're doing that. You're just probably, potentially, casting a removal spell. So here I do like Volcanic Dragon. It is quite a game ender. It can definitely kill people out of nowhere. It's also just a big evasive threat for power in the skies. It's pretty hard to deal with, and even if your opponent has sorcery speed removal for it, it does get at least 1 hit in. So I do think Volcanic Dragon is just a very powerful card. Definitely a very big game ender. And there's not much else in this pack that's that exciting. There's like Drill Master can be good in the aggressive decks on curve. Maybe you can draft something fun with Druid of Horns if you can get enough auras. Not a ton going on here. What do we have now? Nothing great in red. We're not going to take a Lava Axe or an Act of Treason, although Act of Treason is playable in the core sets format because in pretty much all 3 of the core sets there is a bit of a Rakdos sacrifice sub-theme, so if you're drafting red and black, you can probably have ways to sacrifice your opponent's creatures to your Act of Treason, which can be good. Right now, the only color that we're trying to hit is red, and the red cards aren't that great, so we're kind of just looking for the best card in this pack outside of red, and that may just be Bristling Bora. I just like this creature on curve, 4 mana for a 4/3. Can't get double blocked, so they can't block with like 2/2/2s or anything into it, or a 2/2 and a 2/3. They have to have something with at least 3 power to block it well. Reclamation Sage can be solid. It gives you main deckable artifact or enchantment, hate, at the cost of running 1 creature that is a little inefficient in terms of power and toughness for its cost. So Reclamation Sage is pretty fine too. Make a Stand can be good if you're going like really wide in a deck, but I'm just going to take Bristling Boar. It just seems like the most consistently decent creature there. Sleep is a card that I've went on and on about before. I think this card is very powerful in aggressive blue decks, although not more controlling ones. Maybe the pick here, because it is very good in the right deck for it. There's also Aviation Pioneer, which is a card I've cast a lot. I do enjoy it. Getting 2 chump blockers, or potentially actually using that Thopter to ping away at your opponent. Definitely at its best in like blue-black, because it gives you 2 creatures to sacrifice if you're looking for any of that stuff. Red stuff isn't that exciting here. Tormenting Voice, definitely the best card in red, and that's not that great. Some decent stuff in black. Child of Night is just okay on curve, and Vampire Neonate can give you a way to drain your opponent some life, even if they hold the fort pretty well and just have a bunch of blockers. I think I'm going to take Sleep here. Still not really committed to anything. We'll see where the packs take us, but right now we're not certain of anything. If we were taking those Cavalry Drill Masters pretty highly, it would be nice to get rewarded here with this pick 5 Star Crowned Stag, but unfortunately we were not. That being said, I still think it's the best card here. This card is just very good in the aggressive decks. 4 mana for a 3/3, tapping down their best blocker every turn. So definitely a little weird after passing those Drill Masters, but we passed them early enough that it shouldn't be a massive signal for other people to jump into white. I think the next best card is probably Thornhide Wolves. We'd already have 1 Bristling Boar in green, so we'd be taking a card and a color that we already have at least 1 thing for, which is a bit of a plus, but I think that Star Crown Stag is just a premium card for aggressive decks. or just white decks, period. Well, now I see a lot of great green stuff. Thinking about taking the Elvish Rejuvenator here. I do like this card quite a bit. 3 mana for a 1/1 that also draws a land out of your deck, so it's kind of 2 cards for 1. Ramps you a little bit. If you're playing a slower strategy with Chaos Wand, we're probably playing a slower strategy, and if we end up green-red here, we could go for like green-red ramp. If we end up green-blue, we're more likely to be green-blue tempo, where like Greenwood Sentinel would probably be better. So I guess Starcrown Stag, if we end up like green-white, what would be better? Probably Greenwood Sentinel. I guess Greenwood Sentinel is better for like green-blue or green-white potentially, but Rejuvenator could also see playing green-blue. I don't know, I like this card a lot. Maybe I am overvaluing it here, but I think it is fun. Another Starcrown Stag or a Fiery Finish, actually kind of a difficult pick here. I think Starcrown Stag is more important for white aggressive decks, but we could try to be just green-red ramp here because we do have a Volcanic Dragon, so now we have Volcanic Dragon, Fiery Finish, we have 1 ramp card towards them. With Elvish Rejuvenator, we're more likely to be able to play Chaos Wand in a ramp deck because it's going to be a slower deck than in an aggressive deck. That would be just like green-white with Starcrown Stag in it. This is a late Starcrown Stag, though. That is a great sign for white, whereas Fiery Finish, because it's a 6-mana removal spell, those will tend to go later in the first place. I'm going to take Fiery Finish here. I do want to try to do something rampy here. That sounds pretty fun. We could take Swiftclaw if we had taken Stag. I mean, we'd be in a great spot for aggressive white decks. They're just pretty open right now, but I think I'm trying to move it on the green-red party. Inferno Hellion might be decent. 4 mana for 7/3 trample, but if it attacks or blocks, it just shuffles back into your deck the first time it does it. So, I mean, you hit your opponent once for like 7. That doesn't seem awesome to me. I think I'll just take the Greenwood Sentinel, make sure we get some 2-drop creatures. And now we get a Colossal Dreadmaw to ramp into. That seems pretty exciting, although Giant Spider is a solid blocker, so that would not be a terrible pick either. Cavalry Drillmaster's still here. Yeah, aggressive white stuff's definitely open. I think that's quite a bit better than Tormenting Voice. So I'm going to take it, even though we're probably green-red here. We're not missing a lot by missing 1 Tormenting Voice. Actually, Rustwing Falcon's probably pretty bad. Inspired Charge might be better for white aggro. If we just keep wheeling those cards at the very end of this pack here. I'm just going to take Scapeshift for gems here, because we're not going to cast Mind Rot or Revitalize, even if we end up in those colors, most likely. Definitely not casting any of these cards. And Field Creeper can go into any deck that we end up in if we just need filler 2-mana creatures. So we're leaning towards green-red here for sure, but we're not 100% committed. We have a Sleep if we get pushed into blue, and we have Starcrown Stag, Cavalry, Drillmaster if we get pushed into aggressive white stuff. And here there's nothing really good in red for that green-red kind of ramp deck. In green for the green-red ramp deck, we have... what does this do? It's a 1/2, gets +2/+2 as long as there are 3 more lands in your grave. You can sack a land to search for another land, put it into play tapped. So this can like mana fix you if you're like 3-color. Seems a little weird to me. I don't know how good this is. Doesn't seem great. So I'm thinking the best card in green is just Netcaster Spider here, which is solid. But in white here, we see Ironroot Warlord, which is just fantastic. 3 mana for a 1/5 by itself, but its power is equal to the total number of creatures you control. So if you have any other creatures on board, this can get really big really quickly. Even a 3 mana 1/5 is good with the ability that it has to spend 5 mana and dump out soldier tokens. So a great mana sink in the late game. So I'm going to throw those white cards back in, and we may be pushing back into green-white instead of green-red here. Best red card in this pack is Goblin Smuggler, which lends itself a lot better to very aggressive decks like red-white or red-black, so I'm thinking we take Rabid Bite out of green here. Green is our only color that we are definitely playing, and we don't have any removal yet. Rabid Bite is always going to be at least okay, and it's going to be quite good if we have big creatures on the board. In white, we have Griffin Protector, which can be pretty good. It's not that hard to work around this and make it quite good, so I think this would be the first pick out of the white cards, and then Squad Captain coming in second, because you do actually have to put in a decent amount of effort to make this card good. Well, there's Dracozeth for green-red ramp. If we're taking a card for green-white here, we're taking Daybreak Chaplain or Ferocious Pup. Both seem pretty weak. Ferocious Pup probably better because it does put 2 creatures onto the board, so it works well with Ironroot Warlord's effect. And I guess Inspired Charge as well if we're trying to go really wide. Yeah, Ferocious Pup would be pretty decent for that green-white deck, but I yet again feel like I'm not wanting to 100% commit here, but it's getting really late to not commit now that we're in pick 2, pack 3. Dracozeth is going to be so good for the ramp deck, though. I'm going to scoop that up over the Ferocious Pup. That would be decent for the green-white deck. Alright, now we just see a Griffin Protector out of white, which isn't fantastic. I think Lavakin Brawler and Reduce to Ashes are both good in red. We already have a 6-mana removal spell. A 5-mana removal spell might be a bit much. Do we just want the 4-mana 2/4 that attacks as a 3/4? We're unlikely to have more elementals to combo with it, so that's basically the stat line. 2/4 on blocks, 3/4 on attacks. Which is a fine stat line if it's a sturdy creature. We have Rabbit Bite and Fiery Finish for removal here. Chaos Wand potentially working that way. I guess I'll take the Lavakin with Fiery Finish, Rabbit Bite, and Chaos Wand in terms of removal. Can definitely play Ferocious Pup in either green-red or green-white, but it is going to be a lot better in green-white than green-red. Either way, it's the best card out of this pack for us by quite a bit. I guess followed by Growth Cycle, just as a decent pump spell, but not a great one because we're unlikely to get multiple copies of it, so it's just 2 mana for +3/+3, just a more expensive giant growth. We have Chandra's Embercat for red and nothing in white. Alright, it's looking like green-red's going to be the thing here, because Embercat's pretty decent in any red deck. Just a 2-mana 2/2 on curve. I actually got that mixed up with the Magmut, Chandra's Magmut that does a damage to your opponent, so it's actually not that good. But it is another elemental to combo with Lavakin Brawler, and potentially it can help us cast Lavakin Brawler earlier, so maybe. I honestly think I'd rather have a Chandra's Embercat than an Unchained Berserker in this deck, just because of the stat line. Have a 2/2 rather than a 1/1, because Unchained Berserker blocks very poorly, not getting any extra power when it's blocking, only when it's attacking, and it's just easier to kill unless you're playing against white. I think I'm going to take Embercat here. Just another card to go with the Lavakin, and again, I think it's a better stat line for our deck, because we want to be blocking with our early game creatures to make the game last longer, to help us get to our 6-7 mana cards more easily. Mystic Forge is unplayable, right? Yeah, it only does stuff with colorless spells. However, we have Fry, which isn't main deckable, and Natural End, which isn't main deckable. I guess we're taking Raise the Alarm here just in case, so we have green-white creature tokens as our failsafe. Now we have the 3/2 that's only flying during your turn. Definitely for aggressive decks. Doesn't feel like it's for our stuff. Vorse Claw is such a mediocre 6-mana card here. We already have better stuff we're ramping into, and like a Fiery Finish. Kind of a lot of big stuff already. I think I am going to take Elvish Reclaimer here and try that out. And worst case scenario for this card is that it's some gems. Netcaster Spider seems pretty ideal here. Just get another creature in the early game, a pretty good blocker. 2 power, 3 toughness, and reach, a very important ability in green, because we aren't likely to have a lot of flyers. Goblin Bird Grabber's not going to be great in this deck, just a 2-mana 2/1 most of the time. But right now, we have a low enough creature count and just card count in this deck in general that we're considering running a Field Creeper, so we'll definitely consider running a Goblin Bird Grabber at this point. Seeing some really good black cards at the end here. Black was definitely open as well for like green-black. Now we have Scorching Dragonfire, just a great cheap removal spell. I think I like that a lot here. There's also Thrashing Brontodon, a 3-mana 3/4. It's also main deckable artifact and enchantment hate, but that part isn't even necessary for this card to be good. Just the stat line is very solid. That's actually a bit of a difficult pick. I think it's probably between these two. Maybe the Saber-tooth Mauler coming in third. I do like this Scorching Dragonfire. It's just such a great cheap removal spell. We don't have a ton of non-creature stuff right now. We have 3 cards that are non-creatures for the green-red right now. So yeah, we can definitely afford the space for the Scorching Dragonfire there. We may be taking a shock here yet again. Bolt Hound is good in the really aggressive decks. I guess we could end up curving out here. I mean, we have 5 2-mana cards already, so Bolt Hound could be a decent creature here, but I think I just like shock yet again. Just getting more cheap removal spells to help our survivability in the early game, but I guess we have enough creatures for that. I don't know, I'm just going to take the shock. I feel like more decks are going to be scooping those up than our creatures. Wow, another Scorching Dragonfire or a Heartfire Immolator. I am going to take a Heartfire Immolator here. I did just take 2 removal spells over creatures, and Heartfire Immolator is kind of perfect because it's both a removal spell and a creature, so now we can up our creature and removal spell count here without having to take one over the other. Because we can use this, sacrifice it to deal damage equal to its power to a creature, planeswalker, so it's a shock at worst case scenario. Gnarled Sage or Saber-tooth Mauler. We don't have any draw power in this deck, do we, to combo with Gnarled Sage. So that's a 5-mana 4/4 reach. I mean, that's still solid, but I think with like Ferocious Pup, Elvish Rejuvenator, and just enough 2-mana creatures, we're probably trading off often enough that Saber-tooth Mauler might actually be decent here, actually be untapping and getting counters every now and then. Try out the Saber-tooth Mauler here. We also just have a lot of removal to defend ourselves against flyers. Oh, Palladium Mirror, actually. No, I almost didn't see that. We literally have the ramp card that is going to be very important for this kind of deck. This makes Dracuzeth and the 6-mana cards way easier to cast if we ever draw that. Here we have a green-red dual land, which does help a lot for the triple red cost on Dracuzeth, just double cost on those cards. But we'd have to take it over Garruk's Harbinger, which is a 3-mana 4/3 hexproof from black, and when it deals combat damage to somebody, we get to look at the top 4 cards of our library and put a creature from among them in our hand. This card just has so much going for it that I don't think I could take Rugged Highlands over it, and I doubt it's going to wheel, unfortunately, but Harbinger's great here. We'd love to wheel several of these cards. Tyrannodon, Rugged Highlands, or Colossal Dreadmaw would all be awesome for this deck. Now I could take Colossal Dreadmaw, but we don't have any draw power yet, and we could take Thrill of Possibility here. Hopefully that kind of card will wheel. But can I afford the risk? I only have the 3 things I'm super ramping into here, but only the 2 ramp cards, Rejuvenator and Palladium Mirror. We have built our deck with enough removal spells and just like decently sized creatures. I think that we're slowing down the game enough with our other stuff as well that we can probably get another 6-drop in here. Throw that Dreadmaw in. And I'll pick up a Truffle Snout here. It's just a cutie. Just an adorable creature. 3 mana for a 3/3 or a 2/2 that gains you 4 life if you're really needing the life total. Super solid card. Nothing for us here. We'll just take the highest rarity card for the Vault progress. Now we'll scoop up one of these Saber-tooth Maulers. We'll definitely play it. Like it better than the Gorehorn. 3 toughness is pretty low for a 5-mana card with no other abilities. Even if it does have 7 power, it just trades down very easily. Another Saber-tooth Mauler or Gnarled Sage. They both wield. I guess we don't have any 5-mana cards yet. We got 3 4-manas, but 4 and 5s are kind of the same. They're all like mid-range levels. I don't know. I'll take a Gnarled Sage here. Snare Spinner, probably played over Field Creeper if nothing else, just a better blocker. We wield another Gnarled Sage here. Wield the Dreadmaw and Rugged Highlands, that's pretty fantastic. We did take that other Dreadmaw earlier, which leaves us open to take Highlands over the Dreadmaw this time. Get our mana fixed a bit here. And yeah, this deck looks pretty solid and pretty fun. We drafted a ton of rares, as you can see by that. 120 gems, no matter what happens. So that's definitely a big bonus. So here's a deck where we may actually cast a Dracuzeth. And if we do, it's going to be a great time. We only have 5 non-creature cards. I think we can afford to just cut 5 creatures here then. Definitely Field Creeper, maybe Reclaimer, although Reclaimer does help fix our mana. Like if we're stuck off of double green or double red for something, we can use this to sacrifice a mountain to grab a forest, or a forest to grab a mountain, or either to grab a Rugged Highlands. And if the game goes long, it does eventually turn into a 3/4 by using its ability. It's a 1/2 blocker on 1. I want to try this out. It seems like one of our more mediocre cards, but we'll see how it actually pans out. Ferocious Pup actually doesn't seem all that good for this deck. We don't really have any way to use the fact that it makes 2 creatures other than chump block with a 0/1. I guess like Saber-Tooth Mauler works with it. I feel like cutting these 2 for sure, and then we just have 2 cuts to go. Definitely want to try out the Chaos Wand here, at least give the randomness a shot here, give the chaos a try. Maybe cut one of the Gnarled Sages and then one of the 3 drops. We've got a lot at 3. I have a lot at 2 as well, but that's usually pretty important to have. Yeah, I'll cut a Gnarled Sage into 3 drop here. Definitely not the Rejuvenator. Probably not the Spider. When it's between Spider and Truffle Snout, it actually is kind of difficult. Really depends on what we're playing against, which one of these is going to be better. It's definitely not Harbinger or Mirror or Rejuvenator. These 3 are all great. Honestly, it's probably Chaos Wand, all things considered, but we'll see how it actually performs. I'm just at a glance thinking of how this performs. And this is not a card I don't think I've ever done anything with, really. So I did have a comment from someone, though, saying they drafted a very fun Chaos Wand deck, and it panned out for them, so I do want to give it a shot at the very least here. Yeah, Netcaster versus Truffle Snout, I think. Or maybe we just cut one of these Ember Cats, because they don't actually ramp us at all, they just help Lavakin, and that's the only thing. We don't have a lot of 2-mana creatures there, but we're not trying to like curve out on our opponents, we're just trying to survive, and we have Shock, Dragonfire as well, helping with the pile of 2 drops. I'll cut an Ember Cat here, go for a moderately higher curve that way. And we've got our Gruul ramp deck at the ready. Uh-oh. Arena's being a little weird here. There we go. We've gotten our hands. Shock and Ember Cat available here. I think our green-red split is even. Yeah, we have 8 forest, 8 mountain, and 1 rugged highland. So the green-red split is even. That means we have 9 green sources in here. 33 cards left. It's less than a 33% chance each draw step of hitting a forest. I mean, we have Ember Cat plus Shock for the early game. We're on the draw, so we get to draw on the first turn because our opponent's going first. I think because we're on the draw, I'll keep it. If we were on the play, I might mulligan this. It is definitely risky. Certainly looking for our green mana. Opponent starts with a Soul Mender, so if they have cards that combo with life gain, that card is pretty solid. I don't think I want to shock it quite yet, though, because if I play an Ember Cat, I'll be able to block it all day. And if they just sit here gaining life, I think that's probably fine. Like, if they drop a Johnny's Pridemate, then we would be in a world of hurt. We definitely want to shock the Pridemate immediately. But without anything to combo with Soul Mender, just being a little 1/1 attacking us here is fine by me. And they have Concordia Pegasus on turn 2, so they have the 1/3 flyer. Would I rather play the Vigilant creature or the one that can tap for a mana? If they don't attack us with Pegasus, then we can't really attack in with either of these anyway. And if I cast Ember Cat, then if I do draw into my 4-mana elemental, I can cast it next turn, so that might be worth it. Yeah, if we play Greenwood Sentinel, I could see them just not attacking with Pegasus there. And then Greenwood Sentinel or Embercat doesn't attack in anyway. So we might as well play the one that potentially we could cast a 4-drop creature with next turn if we draw into that. Fear of the Bitten. Well, now they are definitely attacking with Concordia Pegasus. So much for the Embercat play over Greenwood Sentinel. Although now with the Drill Master as well, actually no, it gives first strike, doesn't it? Almost got ourselves blown out there. I forgot that this is the one that gives first strike. There's an identical card that gives +2/+0, but doesn't give first strike in this very format. I suppose that one isn't identical. It's a 3-1 for 2 instead of a 2-1 for 2, so I'm glad that I noticed the first strike before I made that block there. If it didn't have first strike, we'd gladly take that trade, because we take the trade and then we just shock the Drill Master and try to stabilize that way, just taking 3 a turn from Pegasus, hoping to draw into a way to block flyers, maybe our Spider, or just try to draw into like a Fiery Finish, some sort of removal spell. Opponent has gotten to quite an aggressive start. I could 2-for-1 myself to kill Pegasus if it comes to that. I could throw a Shock and my Heartfire Immolator at it, because I can shock the Pegasus for 2 damage. Immolator gets Prowess, going to 3/3 status. I sacrifice that to do 3 damage to Pegasus, so that would be 5 total damage. That may be a thing we're interested in. Oh dear. Opponent is definitely suiting up this Pegasus majorly. I don't know if there's anything I can do about that now that it's a 5/7. Fiery Finish does do exactly 7 damage, so we need to draw Fiery Finish, and we need to draw it very quickly. I think I would rather actually block the Drill Master than throw a Shock at it, because Shock plus other removal could potentially kill the Pegasus. Like if I draw a Rabid Bite now, we'll have to 3-for-1 ourselves for it, but they only have 1 card in hand, so if we draw a Rabid Bite, it's probably worth casting Shock on that, Rabid Bite on that, and sacrificing Immolator, because then they have 1 card in hand and a 1/1 on board. So we want to keep Immolator and Shock around just in case we hit Rabid Bite. That would actually allow us to kill the Concordia Pegasus. Scorching Dragonfire would do it as well. Just any of our instant speed burn that wouldn't quite kill it by itself, but when we stack 3 of them all together, we could get there. Just have to leave ourselves open to the possibility of killing Concordia Pegasus with the few ways that we can in this deck. Obviously, the reach creatures don't do it anymore. Now that it is a 7 toughness creature. It also has first strike, so there's that as well. Drakozeth would do it, but we're obviously very far away from that. Opponent has all this out on only turn 3 here. Just gonna check my internet real quickly. Okay, we are playing audio while minimized. All right. Go check a tab here. Just want to make sure that I'm not timing out. Nope, my internet is working, unless Arena's servers kicked me out. Then I believe we are just waiting on our opponent here. Wanted to double check, make sure that I'm not losing this game to time here because of any connection issues. All right, cool. Opponent may have just been having a connection issue there. Seems like we're back at it. Take our 5, take the trade, and we're going to my turn. Did draw into the Netcaster Spider, which can chump block once, but it cannot kill the Pegasus. We'll cast it here. It gives us another draw step to hit a Scorching Dragonfire or a Rabid Bite. I don't believe I have any pump spells in this deck, so even if we keep Netcaster Spider around, we know that it's not going to block Pegasus next turn anyway. Or it's not going to be able to like pump spell block it next turn anyway, so we'll either stop the damage now or stop it next turn. I think I'd rather stop it now. And the reason is because our opponent's playing red, so if they have burn spells, they could have like a lightning strike that could do 3 damage to us and finish us off. So now, if we draw the answer to the Pegasus right now, then we no longer die to lightning strike that we would have died to otherwise. Elvish Rejuvenator. We do still have 1 turn to draw an answer if they don't have burn. Hopefully, Elvish Rejuvenator does not see an answer in the top 5. Chaos Wand and Truffle Snout, neither of those would have been an answer, although Truffle Snout would have given us 1 more turn with its Gain 4 Life ability. Just grab a Forest here. And so yeah, Elvish Rejuvenator did a lot of work there, digging us 5 cards closer to anything that could stop this Pegasus. Just holding all of our blockers back here to be as safe as possible. We're at a very low life total when we're faced with 5 flying damage. So I think it is definitely worth not leaving us open to getting hit pretty badly by any form of removal. Although I guess it only cracks in for 1 more damage, but in red there are definitely haste creatures like Goblin Smuggler we want to be able to block. Down to 3 now. We'll see if they have a burn spell. Looks like no burn spell, so our final draw step here, hoping for Rabid Bite, Scorching Dragonfire. Did not get there, just the 6th mana. We can cast a Dreadmaw, but we can't cast any reach creature or gain any life here, so that will be the game. Definitely a pretty good classic aggressive deck from our opponent. Just playing a lot of cheap creatures and suiting them up with auras, so on turn 3 or 4 there, they just have a 5/7 flying first striker. A very impressive Concordia Pegasus. That may be the largest Concordia Pegasus I've ever seen. Definitely the largest I can remember, but that may just be because I've played against that one recently. I'm definitely going to keep this because we know that we get to cast Rejuvenator turn 3, and that should hit us a land because we get to look at the top 5. So we know we get to cast Rejuvenator into Mauler if nothing else. So this hand does seem pretty solid. Obviously the Dragonfire is going to get held off for later unless I draw the mountain immediately, which I did, so that was pretty lucky. Opponent is starting with a Loyal Pegasus. We're probably going to try to use Scorching Dragonfire to kill their other creatures to just strand the Pegasus aside, although there is an argument for just killing the Pegasus itself because it is flying and I could actually block their other creatures. I think I just want to slow them down here though. Kill the Watchdog. Pegasus can't attack next turn. If I kill Pegasus, I cast Rejuvenator here, and then they still attack me with Watchdog because Rejuvenator just trumps as a 1/1. Palladium Mirror was a wonderful draw there, and that does change our line a bit. Instead of Rejuvenator, we're playing Palladium Mirror. That way this turn, I have 4 mana and a creature that taps for 2. We just get to dump out Colossal Dreadmaw turn 4 here, and then Colossal Dreadmaw turn 5. Another fantastic draw to follow up the mirror. Opponent does have Loyal Pegasus with a Celestial Enforcer, which means they can tap our creatures down for 2 mana, because they do have a flying creature out. So they may actually not attack here, because Pegasus can't attack alone, so if they attack, they have to attack Enforcer into Dreadmaw, which is not good for them. Dreadmaw can just eat the Enforcer, so I suspect no attacks, and then they're going to tap down Dreadmaw when we go to combat. But we'll cast our second one after they spend their mana into that. That way they can't counter our Dreadmaw if they have a cancel. So I'm gonna go to combat, get them to dump their mana into this so they're not holding up double blue anymore. Definitely a scary mana cost to hold up. And now we'll just cast another Dreadmaw post-combat while they're tapped out. And our plan now is probably going to be to shock this Loyal Pegasus, because if we kill their only flyer, Celestial Enforcer can no longer tap creatures. And shock is not going to do enough damage to kill any of their other creatures. Seeing a 3 and a 6 toughness creature there. Shocking the Loyal Pegasus doesn't do anything during our turn though, because obviously they can just respond with tapping down one of our creatures before shock resolves. If a creature died this turn. Okay, so I think we're just going to go to combat here. They'll tap down Dreadmaw, we attack for 8. Then I want to cast Sabertooth Mauler, and then shock the Pegasus, because if Mauler's on the board, it'll get a +1/+1 counter, because we will have killed a creature this turn. Again, going to do all of that post-combat while their mana's down. Opponent is down to 12. They have 1 blue mana up. I don't believe that they could have anything to save Pegasus. The only thing I can think of for 1 blue mana at instant speed is an opt to scry 1 and draw a card. But they may have something I don't know about here. Unsummon as well. Yeah, there we go. Totally forgot about Unsummon. But now we kill the flyer, so our Sabertooth Mauler is a 4/4. It was the only creature we could kill with Shock anyway, and we get to shut off Celestial Enforcer's ability so it can't tap down our creatures anymore. We also have a blocker that's big enough to block Novice Knight if they don't put any other pumps on it. There's a Tide Skimmer from our opponent. They do have another flyer out now, however that did cost them 4 mana, so they can't use the tap ability on the Dreadmaw this turn. If I attack in with Dreadmaw, they can block it with all 3 of their creatures and they can kill Dreadmaw that way. However, I can then kill Tide Skimmer and Celestial Enforcer, so it's still a good attack for me, although I don't think Sabertooth Mauler is a great attack. They can just block with Novice Knight there. I think the only way Mauler is a good attack is if I'm sure they're just going to triple block Dreadmaw, because they could also just double block Mauler with their 2/3s and I can only kill 1 if they have other things in hand to try to deal with the Dreadmaws. I think I just attack with the Dreadmaw here. They're going to go for the triple block. They do have to block with all 3 to kill it, so we'll kill Tide Skimmer and Enforcer, kill 2 creatures, kill the Tapper as well. Sabertooth Mauler will be a 5/5 now, and we're going to cast a Colossal Dreadmaw number 2. We now have a 6/6 trample and a 5/5 on the board. Sabertooth Mauler is definitely looking very impressive. I didn't even realize that it gets counters from your opposing creatures, not even your own, so this card has definitely overperformed thus far. I would probably take it higher than I had been. However, we wheeled every Sabertooth Mauler we saw anyway. So they're going to do the double block here to kill Sabertooth Mauler. Interesting. I would have expected the double block on the Dreadmaw, although I guess Sabertooth Mauler would be a 6/6 at the end of this turn anyway and possibly get bigger later. But yeah, a double block to kill this is fine as well. Either place that they double blocked, they get to kill the creature, and I only kill 1 of theirs, because obviously 6 toughness on Novice Knight is just a ton. I'm playing into a Wrath a little bit here, but I do want to go wide, so if they don't play another creature, I have lethal on the board. Because if they don't have another creature, they can block Dreadmaw, but then they take 3, 4, 5, 6 from the other 3. 1 card in hand. We'll see if they've got something here, or if they have flooded out. Horizon Scholar seems pretty solid here. They can kill a Dreadmaw, but only if they double block Dreadmaw here. I think I attack all here, because they have to block Dreadmaw with something. Oh. Well, could also just draw the Great Rabid Bite off of the top, the Great Removal spell. That makes it so we are back to exact lethal there. Very solid draw. Very solid draws throughout that game. Palladium Mirror, even at the start of the game, was beautiful, following up with the second Dreadmaw as well. Just ramping out some massive dinosaurs way earlier than we had any right to. So, 1-1 for Gruul Ramp. Definitely playing some fun stuff, some big Timmy spells. I don't know why, but this reminds me a little bit of like playing Naya back in Shards of Alara. It's just what I... Because like Gruul in all the Ravnica formats felt like earlier like stuff, less rampy, more just a bunch of aggressive green-red creatures. But Naya in Shards of Alara was a lot of like ramp into these big power 5 or greater creatures. I only drafted Shards of Alara a couple times, and it was the first format I ever drafted, and I was 13 years old at the time, so I definitely didn't draft it well or often, so that is a format I'd really like to see remastered on Arena, but they're only planning to remaster stuff in Pioneer, so definitely nothing that old, unfortunately. So, off to a pretty good start this game. We got our dual land into a turn 2 Heartfire Immolator. Now we have a turn 3 Rejuvenator. We do need to draw more plays, but our first 3 turns look quite good to the naked eye. From our opponent's perspective, they're probably pretty worried here at what we could have. Obviously, from our perspective, we know that we need to draw into some plays here. Our opponent is on Sultai. They've went Swamp into Island into Forest. They have Sorcerer of the Fang and Aviation Pioneer out. Obviously, Aviation Pioneer did come with a token. Sorry about that. I was getting a phone call from a state I don't live in, so I'm just going to hang up right there. Yeah, Gnarled Sage seems pretty solid here. It's going to be a good blocker. It's obviously the only play, so not much to think about here. And we don't have good attacks against their current field. They can kill our 2-2 by blocking with a 1-2 and a 1-1, and we'll just have a bad time there. Drop a mountain. And do I have good attacks now? They have 3 power outs, and I have Heartfire Immolator if something goes wrong. I think Gnarled Sage does attack in well here. So we get in that 4 damage. Not too worried about a retaliation from all these 1-power creatures. Opponent has 4 mana now. They've played a blue-black duel and a black-red duel. Could be a Golos deck. Golos is in one of the core sets. I don't remember which one. But that is a card that you do draft the dual lands highly if you have managed to pick it up. And then just try to splash in a little bit of every color to get its ability going on. So they do have every color except white available now. It's the only card that I can really think of in the core sets format that really pushes you into a 5-color deck. So definitely the easiest card to suspect here. If I attack with Gnarled Sage now, I do kill Skeleton Archer and Sorcerer of the Fang if I sacrifice Heartfire Immolator. But if I don't want to sacrifice Heartfire Immolator, then I lose the Gnarled Sage just to kill an Archer. Is it worth it to make Sabertooth Mauler bigger? I don't think so. They have 4 other cards in hand we don't know about. I think we have to just go on the defensive for a moment here and try to draw into one of our power plays like a Dreadmaw or a Drakuzeth or a Chaos Wand actually would be pretty perfect here because we're not under a ton of pressure because of our creatures being pretty good blockers here and pretty big on this board. Field of the Dead, that is another incentive to just draft a bunch of dual lands, so that makes a lot of sense. If they hit 7 lands with different names, they will start getting 2/2s every time. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right now, so next land they get a 2/2 zombie out of, and this card will take over the game very quickly. All of a sudden, nothing in their deck is a dead draw. Doesn't matter how flooded they get, every land they get will be a 2/2 zombie. So that's pretty terrifying. We probably want to play as aggressively as we can against that, but I don't think we can really play that aggressively here. Obviously, everything we have is just what we have on board, and on board, I guess we could attack with Gnarled Sage and Sabertooth Mauler. They can only kill one of those, and then maybe the other one gets to just keep beating in. It's a bit risky, but as soon as they just start playing more lands, I'm never going to be able to get in again. We could just be in pure top deck mode here. This has got to be some kind of trick from my opponent here, right? Some sort of instant. Now I lose Heartfire Immolator to kill the Pioneer so that Gnarled Sage doesn't die. The problem is if they respond to that with something, then I do get 2 for 1 pretty bad. Field of the Dead's about to go off here. I think we gotta make them have it here. Let's see what they have. Grasp of Darkness to just give it -4/-4. Sure. So we do still at least kill one of their creatures, even if it's not a great creature. So we didn't get like exactly 2 for 1 because our ability still went off. They have Field of the Dead and Golos. Oh my god, my opponent has the dream-like Arena Cube style deck. Those are both at M20 as well. Wow, we are going to lose really badly here, but this is a cool way to lose. So now they get 2/2 zombies on every land they play. They're definitely going to play a land every turn at this point, and Golos lets them cast the best cards from the top 3 of their library every turn. This is a pretty incredible deck from our opponent. There was no way our Gruul ramp deck is going to beat the 5-color ramp deck with both Golos and Field of the Dead. This is some exceptional stuff here. They've got a Gravedigger for free here, and they get to bring back the Aviation Pioneer I just killed. Seems good. If I top deck Dracuzeth right now, I have the mildest chance, because Dracuzeth does attack for 11 every time, so if they have no removal, I could have a 7-power flyer out, attack, deal 4 damage to their face, 3 to their flyer, so they'd have nothing to block it. That would kill them in 2 turns. However, I think it is too late now that I just drew a Lavakin Brawler instead. It's always something that we could draw that would kill them in 2 turns. The problem is we need to be able to survive 2 turns, obviously. I don't think we can do that anymore. And we might not even have been able to do that if we drew it immediately there. Obviously, if we did, they would have finishing blowed it, so... a big loss here, but a very cool one. Definitely a precursor to the Arena Cube coming back on April 2nd. I expect Golos and Field of the Dead are in that cube, and we'll be seeing that deck drafted quite a bit. Angel of the Dawn to give the whole field of zombies +1/+1 and Vigilance, a big way to end the game. Let's just see how much damage they do, how negative we get here from our opponent's phenomenal deck. We got on to -23. They went ahead and killed 2 players at the price of 1. Could have been playing 2-headed giant and we would have gotten slammed there. They definitely did enough damage for that double life total. So we're 1-2 now. We can always rally back to 7 wins, but it will be difficult. I'm going to do my best. I think this Gruul deck could have it in it. It does have the potential for some very big, bomby hands. I don't think it has the potential for that many like terrible hands, because even our mediocre cards are pretty fine. But yeah, there's the rare chance of very explosive hands like we had in the one game that we did win, where we got the turn 3 Palladium Mirror to cast turn 4 Colossal Dreadmaws. So maybe we'll get something like that going on. It's not going to be that kind of hand here. It is a bit risky to keep 3 6-drops in your opener, but we have 3 lands, so we're halfway there. If we hit Elvish Rejuvenator or Palladium Mirror, they help get us towards that, and Snare Spinner is a good blocker for the early game to help us try to survive to late game. If we survive to turn 6 in a stable enough board position, we can probably take over the game with just massive creatures. So we'll see if we can get there here. We did draw into the Elvish Rejuvenator, which is perfect. One of the 2 best cards we could draw here, Rejuvenator or the Mirror. Rejuvenator is actually a better draw against this Vial of Dragonfire because this could kill our Palladium Mirror before we get any mana out of it to stop us from the turn 4 Dreadmaw. So Rejuvenator just a great draw here, meaning that we probably have 5 mana already and only need to draw 1 more. We can miss off of this ability, but it's not super likely. We do get to dig 5 cards deep, and most decks have, like 40-something% lands when you're running a 17-land deck. So, should average out to like 2 out of the 5 cards being lands. Ooh, I don't know what I'm playing against here, but it's got me excited. They've dropped a Lotus Field here, turn 3, sacrifice 2 lands, and now they have a land that can just tap for 3 of any color. They are just playing blue-red, so maybe they're just blue-red with a Lotus Field for fun, but I would be interested to see if they're doing anything weird with this, like casting anything off color. Definitely grabbing another green source here so that we can have the mana for the Dreadmaws. Seems quite important to me. We already have all of the red mana for the Volcanic Dragon, so We even have enough red for Drakuzeth needing triple red, so definitely taking a forest over a mountain there. Well, we have all of the lands that we need for our 6 drops, but we do not have all of them out yet. We need to wait one more turn before we're casting things. Seems that our opponent is stuck on 3 mana here. I do have the Vial of Dragonfire to kill the Ember Cat here, but still gonna drop it out. Ooh, Shock as well. So they're holding on to that Vial for later. Still stuck on mana from our opponent here. If they have another Shock, they could stack up into 4 damage on something. I think I'll go Dreadmaw here because of that. It's going to be harder for them to kill off of only 3 mana. They could have a cancel, I suppose. Triple blue. They could cancel Volcanic Dragon as well. Does seem like our opponent's really stuck on mana here. It's not as bad as it looks. It obviously looks terrible when your opponent's stuck on a single land this late in the game, but technically they have 3 mana. They've had 3 mana all game. Just their 3rd land made them sacrifice the first 2 to be able to come out, so unfortunate game there. Not a ton of magic to be had. Just a bit of mana screw for our opponent. That will push us up into 2-2. Only need 1 more win to hit at least 3-3, an average run. But you all know the drill. We're in it for the 4-3s. We're in it for as many wins as we can get to. I'm going to do my best every time, but the 4-3s are where I'm definitely happy. Getting all of the gems back to be able to just run up into another draft immediately again. We're definitely seeing some really cool stuff this draft, from our opponents at the very least. Even though that opponent got mana screwed, it was still cool to see the Lotus Veil. And then obviously the opponent before that, at least we lost to an incredibly cool deck. You do not see Golos and Field of the Dead in Limited very often, or at least outside of Cube. So that was a twice in a lifetime kind of thing. Not quite once in a lifetime, but it is rare. This hand is very good. We have both of our colors. We get to start playing creatures on turn 2, and we have the combo of the Ember Cat into the Lavakin Brawler, so we can play the Lavakin Brawler on turn 3, and if they don't kill an Ember Cat, it will attack as a 4/4 instead of a 3/4, so pretty great curve in that way. And we even have obviously the great early game removal spells to interact with whatever our opponent's doing. I'm a very big fan of this hand. Our opponent has 7 cards in hand. Waiting to see what they do here. Oh, I guess they're still deciding mulligans. I think they took a mulligan because their hand did shift around into their deck for a second. But they have not chosen what they're putting back yet. Don't remember if I'm on the play or my opponent is. We'll find out here. Alright, looks like we're on the play. Definitely less painful to mulligan on the draw than on the play, so that is definitely good for our opponent. It is always sad to mull on the play for sure. Playing against blue-white here, I would definitely expect blue-white flyers. Ooh, blue-white artifacts, perhaps, starting with a Steel Overseer, a card I am very, very familiar with. It came up pretty early on when I started playing. It came out in M11, and obviously I do love me some artifact decks, so I have played a lot with this card, and it is very fun. So it is tempting to Shock or Dragonfire it immediately, but we don't need to do that quite yet, because it's only going to become a 2/2 this turn, so we can just do it now. Opponent starts with a Teferi's Tutelage, so probably a more controlling kind of blue-white deck. using the tutelage as a draw spell and an alternate win condition if the game goes long enough. Definitely where tutelage is at its best. It's the kind of card that, because it does draw a card and discard a card when you play it, you don't have to focus your deck around mill for it to be good. It's just a decent alternate win con if the game goes long that gives you some value even if the game doesn't. So now I think we are going to go ahead and kill Steel Overseer. They don't have any mana here to do anything special, so they can just tap this and make it a 2/2. So I'll go ahead and just shock it, I think, so we can get in all our damage. In case they were planning on chump blocking here, we can stop that from happening. I guess they could have traded into Embercat. We'll just cast a Snare Spinner post-combat here. Of course, the Embercat can only add mana for elemental spells, so we can't cast Gnarled Sage this turn. Just play our Spider. It's 1 more damage, which isn't nothing. Hopefully Scorching Dragonfire is big enough to kill their next blocker. They have milled our Chaos Wand, so we may not be casting that card at all today, but we're definitely not casting it in this game, that's for sure. Luminous Bonds for the Lavakin Brawler. Makes sense, that is our biggest creature. Doing pretty well here, hitting for 3 a turn with the Dragonfire back up for their next blocker, unless they are a very controlling deck and they play like a 1/6 or something, like a Fortress Crab, then Dragonfire is not going to help us there, because even if they block an Embercat, that just deals 2 and then it still has 4 more toughness. So a Sky Scanner from our opponent to draw a card and get a 1/1 flying blocker out. Not going to Dragonfire that, we'll just attack into it, let it soak up 2 damage here if they want to make that chump block. Wall of Runes is a 0/4, that's going to be a lot more annoying. I might actually Scorching Dragonfire that. Although if we draw land here, we're probably not Dragonfiring anything, because then we're just going to play creatures that are big enough to attack into all of this. Drawn to the Netcaster Spider here. We're down to 20 cards in our library, so we're 10 turns away from getting milled out. They milled 2 a turn. I guess we have to count our draw step as well. We draw 1 card per turn, so it's 3 cards a turn essentially. So we have a 7-turn clock here. Got to get aggressive as we can. We probably just put as many creatures on board as possible. We attack both here because they can't kill anything and they might chump block with Sky Scanner. If they don't, we get into damage. We have to get every point of damage that we can in. Let's see what else they've milled. Getting a little worried that they haven't milled Drakuzeth or our Colossal Dreadmaws, because those would be very bad draws for us right now, since we are not at enough mana. They have a Sift as well. Draw 3, discard 1 card. Draw 3 makes us mill 6. We're down to 12 cards in library now. The clock is ticking very quickly now. Attack all again. Maybe a Scorching Dragonfire here. Maybe a Bristling Boar. So we know Sky Scanner's gonna die, so if we Scorching Dragonfire Wall of Runes, they have no blockers left, and we're doing 5 damage a turn. Although we can just play Bristling Boar if we're not casting Scorching Dragonfire. 11 cards, we have 4 turns till we die. If they don't cast another draw spell, if they cast another draw spell, we do just die. I think we cast Bristling Boar again, get more power on this board rather than Dragonfire, because if I Dragonfire, it's the only thing I'm doing. We hit them to 9, and then we have 5 damage per turn, but if they play another creature, it's pretty bad. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Boar here, because Boar is big enough that the Wall of Runes can't block that. We get milled 2 cards, down to 9 now. Getting increasingly worried about the Teferi's tutelage. Because it is very, very good if you have the draw spells to combo with it, and our opponent has drafted around it very well. Here we see Cloud Conceer, Sift, and Sky Scanner. Looks like a Sage's Row Denizen from our opponent, so whenever they play another blue creature, they do mill us too. We're definitely going to just Dragonfire that immediately, I think. That is way too dangerous to keep around. And then we'll play an Elvish Reclaimer, which is actually great in this matchup. It's going to be a 1-mana 3/4, because our opponent has milled us a ton of lands. I suppose we'll play that post-combat, though. They can't kill any of our creatures off this block, so we do get to get in for some damage. Actually quite a bit. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Swift response though, so just 3 damage here. We play Elvish Reclaimer, they're going to block that next turn. They take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not quite lethal in one attack. We need them to not have any more draw spells or mill here. But if they don't have any more, we have exactly enough cards to win this game. Wall of Runes is going to scry 1 for our opponent. Now we definitely need a way to break through a little more, because they block here, here, take 3. They have a Luminous Bonds as well. We draw a Rabid Bite, but we only have 3 power. So we can finish off one of the walls. It's not going to be enough. 5 cards left. We only have 1 more turn after this to win. Because they mill us 2, then we have 3 cards in deck. We draw one of those. We have 2 cards in deck. They mill us 2 and we lose. So we have 1 turn to win the game after this. No, this is just not enough. We get in for 1 damage here, and we get to kill one of the walls. And then we attack all 3, and we get in for 3 damage. So we hit them for 4 total. They're at 2 life at the end of this game. Tutelage definitely going to make it all the way here. What does this do? Sacrifice a land, search for a land, put on the battlefield, tap, and shuffle. It's not going to do anything here, so just wanted to double check and make sure it doesn't do anything weird that actually matters here. I'm going to target that in case they have, I don't know, what they could have for 1 white. Something to like bounce it. The white on summon. Milled 2 more cards. We've got 1 final draw step during our turn. We get milled 2 and then we draw 1, have no cards left in library. Chrome Replicator is just a 4/4. See what we draw as the final draw. Oh yeah, we get milled during their turn. Did draw the land for the Gnarled Sage, but it doesn't have haste or anything, so that is just going to be game. Wait, what did they have to replicate? If you control 2 or more non-land, non-token permanents with the same name. Oh, they have 2 Luminous Bonds. Very nice. Well, that is unfortunately going to end this game and end this draft with a 1-3 run for the Gruul ramp deck today. Not a great run, but I do think it was a very solid deck. Just was not in it, not in the stars for us today for sure. Did get to try out the Elvish Reclaimer, although I didn't really get to try it. Oh, it's 2 wins. Oh yeah, we won against somebody who was severely mana screwed. I remember about that now. Not super severely, they had 3 mana, but still, they didn't really get to play any Magic that game. So we are 2-3, not as bad as I thought it was, but yeah, I think this was a really solid Gruul deck. I don't know if I would say anything like over or underperformed. Yeah, Sabertooth Mauler actually did overperform. That was very good in the game that we had it in. Oh yeah, we did pass up on a Sabertooth Mauler. We saw 2 of them, we only ended up with 1. I don't remember what we took over the other one. I think it was one of these Gnarled Sages. Oh, we only have 1 Gnarled Sage as well. Yeah, I think we took a Gnarled Sage over a Mauler at some point. Double Mauler might have been better. It certainly would have been better in that last game where we had 4 mana but not 5 mana. I don't know about just as a whole. Trying to see if there's any insights to give on this draft at the end. Not really. Super solid deck, pretty fun deck. 2-3 is not the end of the world, but I would have liked to see it do better. Did not get to play around with the Chaos Wand, unfortunately, and it's not even Chaos Wand's fault. We just didn't draw it. It got milled 1 time, but that was the only time we saw it, so I still may never know whether or not Chaos Wand is any good in this kind of deck, or just in general. I think we did have a match or 2 where it would have been good if we drew it, because we had times where we were just sitting there and we could have a mana sink and use it. Yeah, definitely a fun deck. Fun draft overall. I will take that 2-3. And that will end today's Premier Draft of the Core Sets format. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to stay around on the channel, like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you're already doing. And yeah, that'll end it. Yep. I always say thank you twice because I'm so bad at the outros, so I like loop the same thing over and over. Either way, I very much do appreciate you for watching, and all of the support lately on the Premiere Draft videos has been phenomenal. I think the first one's at almost like 2,000 views now, which is just absolutely insane. I think before this year, I would have never expected or gotten that many views on any of my draft videos. I think the only view I ever got that many views on was like my reaction to the War of the Spark panel, because that was just very hype. Everybody was hype about it, so that obviously got a lot of views there. But yeah, it's been super great lately. So thank you all very much for watching, commenting, liking, all of the good stuff that you've been doing. And if you enjoy the content, make sure to stick around, because I will be back again tomorrow with our final. I think, if I'm timing this right, I'll be back again tomorrow with the final premiere draft of the Core Sets format. So I'll see you then.